Good morning, it's Nikki. Thank you so much for joining me and being here today. I want to talk about one of my favourite topics today, which is creativity and the relationship that we all have with that word and that feeling and that way of life. I firstly need to be completely honest with you. Over the last year, am I going to say year? Let's say year. It might not be as long as that, but it's felt a while. I had all the questions. What am I doing with my life? Where am I going next? What does this mean? All of the questions. I think it was turning 40. I think it was making a big house move. And I, for a long time, found that I had more questions for myself than answers. And so every time I would get an answer, it would be like greeted with 20 more questions. And I felt like I was going round and round in this loop of not getting to the crux of where I wanted to get to. And finally, I have all the answers for my life. No, finally, I'm finding my flow again. And I'm finding a way that feels good, that feels manageable, that feels aligned with my goals. But most importantly, that is feeling like me. And to be able to get to this point of something feeling like me, and for you to get to a point where something feels like you, you're probably going to have to do something scary and nerve-wracking and not the norm, which is to ignore the rules. To ignore the rules or the layers of expectations or what you should do or what the algorithm wants you to do or what somebody on a course said was the new trends. You have to put them to the side. And the only way that I can use this analogy is this sense of when I became a mum. So when you become a mum, my experience was, and I can only speak for myself because there's many different versions of this, my experience was I left the hospital. I felt like I was piecing my mind and body and spirit back together. I mean, if you have some kind of major surgery, that's quite a big deal in itself. But then you're presented with a baby to take home. And this baby has no instructions. And even though this baby, you may have carried it for 9 months, you don't know this baby yet. And the temptation when you leave can be to listen to what everybody else says and to almost feel that bombardment of, you should do this. So-and-so's friend's daughter did this. This is what this book says. Now they're doing this. This is what's going to happen next. And one thing that I realized in those early days is when I was at that moment of being awake in the night or being awake for the 7th time in the night, the book was not something that I was reaching for. Or I wasn't getting on a bus in the middle of the night to listen to somebody who I'd never met to give me advice about what I should do to stop this baby crying or get this baby to sleep. This baby, my baby, both of them. And as soon as I had that dawning, everything started to change. I started to become more tuned in. I started to understand what was going on in this moment. I started to build this data of what happens when my baby does X, Y, and Z. So therefore, that's what that means. And we know these things about ourselves, don't we? As we go through the years, we go through the decades. I know that if I don't have breakfast, pretty much as soon as I get up. Not quite, but certainly within the first half an hour. I am not full of wisdom. I need that. That's how I like to start my day. And so even though I've probably hung out with people over the years who are like, I'm not really a breakfast person. I'm, oh, okay, I'm not really a breakfast person, even though I am. I now know that about myself. And this is what might be happening with your personal brand, with your content, with where you're going in your business and life, is that perhaps you've been consumed by what you should do. Or there's been so much noise out there at the moment of like, people aren't buying at the moment, or prices are going up. And I'm not saying that these aren't true. These things are all happening. But going back to that raising a child analogy, there will always be somebody who will give an opinion. There will always be other things going on within the circumstances of your life. And if I'm honest, which I endeavour to always be, Mum, if you're listening, I got swept away slightly. And I started to let the noise of what was happening around me interfere with what was happening. So going back to that situation of having a baby, if you've got your baby in your arms and the baby's crying and you've got somebody being panicky over it going, well, why don't you try this? Why don't you put a dummy in the baby? Maybe it's too hot. Maybe it's too cold. Maybe it's hungry. You can't think straight. And so even though you might be looking at other people, the experts, for the right answer, because when you're working through this process, the scary thing seems to be to say, can I just have a bit of quiet a moment and just check in with my baby and see what they need? That feels scary because you're going back to your own instinct. You're going back to your own intuition in that moment. But if you can do that, if you can be brave enough just to stop and listen and turn down the distractions, it's going to make it clearer. And sometimes that is a process in itself, making it clearer, because maybe you're not ready for the answer. Maybe you don't want to hear the answer. Maybe you are so used to other people supporting you and helping you all the time. But since I have done that, and I would say I've done that throughout May, I said that in my newsletter yesterday, I suddenly feel like I've got a lot more answers. When you get to that point of listening, you start to rebuild that relationship. And for me, to go back to the baby analogy, I needed to build or rebuild that relationship with my creativity, because I got lost. I got lost in, oh, this is what people want at the moment, or the algorithm says this, or this is what Instagram's doing, or maybe I should be on TikTok, or all of this stuff. And what I've done is I've really recognized some of my own patterns. And one of them is I feel most creative when I'm not sitting at my desk. When I'm out and about and moving and experiencing, in conversation, in connection, and not just going, must think of some good ideas. Also, I realized that so many of the ways and the methods in which I work are influenced from that. So as much as I will always continue to talk about personal branding and creating your own gig and making it success on your terms, I also want to be in the world as well. I want to be experiencing other businesses and seeing what's happening. And so I want to feel creative again. And over the last week or so, I have, and some of you have noticed, and that you've only noticed because you've been on my website, I haven't really spoken about it. I have gone back to writing about the things that I like to write about and creating content such as personal branding, but also talking about other things. And again, there would be somebody, I'm sure, saying, stick to what you know, Nikki. You're not an expert. Stick to what you know. Don't talk about that. There are other people out there doing X, Y, and Z. But for me, it always comes back to me showing up as my best. Me showing up in a way in which I feel really good. So I'm going to try it. I'm going to see what happens. This is week 2, and so far so good. I'm really enjoying doing it. So if you want to have a read and you want to find out a little bit more, you can go to the Daily Boost. So nikkiraby.com Daily Boost, /Daily Boost. And you can subscribe to it if you want. So you can get the daily email. It's completely free. There is nothing to pay. And I'm interested to see what happens with it. And I'm interested to play around with this new unlocked creativity. So if you've got something from today, I would love to know what resonated for you. And what do you need to do to get back in alignment with yourself, where you can think straight, when you can be in that position where you're really fully in yourself and you're listening to what you need. Yeah, go and check it out. Go and have a read. nikkiraby.com /the Daily Boost. I would love to hear your thoughts. All right, I'll see you soon.